Hey everyone, this is Dr. John here, coming at you with another video uh, in our many videos to come in the series Psych in the Van or Blue Van Psychology, Blue Van Existential Psychology primarily. But today we're going to include a transpersonal focus. It's hard to separate the two for me, but I think the main difference is between them is um, this is how I think about it, is that the existential approach doesn't necessarily, in all cases, emphasize a transpersonal or spiritual approach. So, in defining the transpersonal model, I think that's complicated, just like I pointed out with the existential model, because most scholars probably don't agree as to a core definition. Um, and many people can probably practice it in different ways depending upon what their own spiritual model is, what their own psychological model is. But one of the key things I think that's vital about an existential approach is that, or an existential transpersonal approach would be the inclusion of, let me clarify. So a transpersonal approach, not an existential, would be the inclusion of all previous models of psychotherapy, psychology as well, if we're speaking more generally. But let's target psychotherapy, and so it doesn't necessarily disempower or claim superiority over any prior models. And when I mean prior models, I'll oversimplify by just saying the previous three waves, if you will, of schools of therapy. So we have psychodynamic, psychoanalysis, then the behavioral, and I'm just going to lump in like the cognitive behavioral, and there's third wave cognitive behavioral approaches as well. Then we have the humanistic movement. Then I'm going to say the essentially transpersonal model could be arguably grouped in with humanistic as well. I think it's different, similarly to the way in which existential is different. Um, Again, the true emphasis on the spiritual core of being. So, I put together um, just a few basic tenets of a transpersonal model, and I have to say that this is going to be one of several videos, primarily because I am trying to keep these videos short, and I've got to do further digging around on the inclusion of more perspectives here. This is primarily sourced like a quick look at ChatGPT to see what it turns up and see what I agree with there. But what it comes back with is, well, first I should talk about some definition of transpersonal psychology. So some would say the word transpersonal through and beyond the personal, meaning we have to include the personal and then we go beyond the personal. And another way to think of that would be those quote unquote higher levels of spiritual being, which is self transcendence, if you will. All these alternate states of consciousness work, I think, could be a part of that. The um, anomalous experiences, if I'm saying that word correctly, where we have many accounts of, out of body type experiences, astral travel, psychic phenomenon, things such as parapsychology, remote viewing, these sort of clairvoyant experiences. So many different things to include. And I think psychology must be concerned with these because at the core, psychology is about the person, right? And people have these experiences. And in traditional models, they would probably pathologize those, and probably even in contemporary models. Transpersonal doesn't necessarily do that, but we do practice discernment around the sense of, is this a experience of psychosis, or is this indeed some sort of spiritual emergence or a spiritual emergency, or some kind of awakening. So we have to really work hard to tease those apart. In another video, I'll get down to more criteria on that. But so let's look at the transpersonal model from this notion of going through and beyond the person, and the inclusion of that sort of the human levels, and then also beyond. So, Chat GBT, the spiritual dimension is inherent to human nature. So humans have an innate capacity for spiritual awareness, growth, and transcendence. Psychological well-being includes the integration of spiritual experience with everyday life. So I'm good with that. Um, I think, yes, human beings are spiritual beings in my view. Some people don't approach that way, and that's okay. As a psychologist, psychotherapist, I'm not going to impose that notion on people. But another way to think about holding the transpersonal model is it's a field in which everything is held. And so regardless of what a client, patient, person's perspective is on the spirit, I'm a spiritual being, so that's in the backdrop. I might not explicitly bring that to people if it's not there resonating from them, but I'm still holding all humans as sacred beings. So I'm good with this notion of that innate capacity. And yes, psychological well-being, I think, is hinges upon this integration of spiritual experience with everyday life. Two, expanded states of consciousness are valid avenues for growth. Yes, I'm on board with that. So it breaks it down a little further. The mystical, the meditative, the peak, or altered states of consciousness can be healing and transformative. These states are explored respectfully, not dismissed as pathology unless it causes harm. We covered that, so we're good with that. The self is multi-dimensional. So beyond the ego, everyday self, there's a deeper or higher self connected to universal consciousness. Yeah, I'm good with that. And so I think, yeah, at all times, I believe I'm connected with my higher self, and also like dialing into universal consciousness. That comes through spiritual experiences for me, or deep inner awareness where it's an inherent connection, as we talked about. Therapy supports healthy ego development while also opening awareness to transpersonal aspects of identity. Yes, that's I mean that's what a path of awakening is all about. And the transpersonal model, I think, has a very strong sense for empowering people towards that awareness, and also I think creating conditions for it. The sacred space of therapy. We talk about altered state work involving set and setting. So the helping people get into a good, positive, growth oriented psychological mindset, and also providing a setting for that growth, to whatever extent is possible, unconditional positive regard. That's very aspirational, I believe, because as humans, we do struggle, I think, to offer other humans full on unconditional love and acceptance due to the constraints of our programming of society and culture, and sort of that lower level. So, four, psychological and spiritual development are intertwined. I'm good with that. Let's see what the bullet points are. Personal growth often involves both resolving psychological conflicts and awakening to deeper existential meaning. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, awakening to deeper existential meaning. That's interesting. So, the vibe I get from that is that there's an implication there that there's a in like a pre-created, if you will, existential meaning. So that's a tricky one for me, because my view is we both, and this comes from um I believe existential philosophy. I don't remember the particular philosopher, but we both create and discover our meaning. So I think it works both ways like that. Like it's up to me to make choices to instill my experience with meaning, yet there's also meaning already. That's why this stuff gets kind of complicated. We have to be able to hold like this non-duality and also multiple realities, if you will. So development may follow stages with spiritual crisis or spiritual emergencies, sometimes occurring during transitions. Yes, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And there's many developmental models of developmental psychology. Also, the work of Ken Wilber, I think, is very good. That's for another video. And okay, 5, integration of science and spirituality. I kind of already got into this. So we validate the empirical psychological knowledge, the Eurocentric type approaches, um, you know, um, scientific method, that sort of thing, and wisdom from contemplative traditions. Yeah, I think definitely, definitely. And I think that wisdom is a very powerful part of the transpersonal approach. I mean, this wisdom in many different traditions we're talking has been handed down thousands of years since maybe the beginning of consciousness. It gives example Buddhism, Sufism, mystical Christianity, indigenous traditions like Kabbalah, and other unnamed traditions there as well. Encourages dialogue between modern, like shamanism, for example, and anyways, encourages dialogue between modern psychology, neuroscience, and ancient spiritual practices. Yes, 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 and yes. I don't want to really say too much on that one for the sake of time, other than I think the neuroscience is really important in understanding like the entrainment of nervous systems, mirror neurons, how my nervous system affects the nervous system of the other and vice versa. The way that this works, I don't know all the details on that, but I've had powerful experiences like this. For example, the first time I went to Zen Center of Pittsburgh back east, early 2000s. The very, very first time the Zen teacher walked into the practice hall, I felt the energy shift and change in a profound way. I'll never forget that. That's the radiance of her nervous system, of her um, just bringing it. Okay, so number 6, wholeness as the goal of therapy. Bullet points. Healing is not just symptom reduction, but integration of mind, body, emotions, and spirit. Yeah, I'm into that. I mean, I my whole life I've been into religious spiritual approaches, Catholic school my whole way up and through. That was a whole like mind, body, spirit approach. You know, they talk about the Holy Spirit there. Um, and all have to be included, wisdom from all dimensions. So 6, bullet point 2, aim is a sense of interconnectedness, meaning, and compassion. Those are ways of bringing the state of wholeness, as they say, holistic. And I think there's method. I think the transpersonal model, and even now, what I'll call mainstream psychology, is into mindfulness, and that's all setting the stage for these kinds of experiences. So we have respect for diverse spiritual frameworks. I already talked about that. Transformative potential of crisis, of course. The transformation of suffering into deeper meaning, purpose, awakening. There's the quote. I forget. Is it Rumi? Maybe the wound is where the light enters, or don't turn away from that bandaged place. It's all about that. It's all about that. We don't want to, of course, dismiss the psychological processes around moving through the psychological states of suffering. Number 9, experiential practices as central tools. So mindfulness, meditation, breath work, visualization, dream work, creative expression, and ritual alongside talk therapy. Experiences prioritized over intellectual analysis. Yeah, I'm into that. I'm a heavy intellectual, so that's something that I got to work to overcome sometimes. Like, let's not let my mind overinterpret or get in the way of the immediacy of present moment experiencing, and also trusting your experience over what the herd to to bring Nietzsche in, what the herd says. Okay, so number 10. This will be the last one here for this video: service and compassion as outcomes of growth. Bullet point 1, deepened sense of purpose often involves connection, service, and compassion for others. Uh, Bullet point 2, transpersonal development tends towards greater empathy and altruism. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think as human beings, we the cultivation of compassion, of empathy, is so vital right now. There's so much going on. I'm not going to get into all that, but the awakening of the heart, the awakening of compassion, is the antidote that we all need. So let's leave it at that in today's video, because we're crossed over the 15-minute mark. And if you have any thoughts, reflections, leave a comment below. Please like this video if you'd enjoyed it, and follow the channel. Much more to come. I'm so excited.